Artha Yog Anushasanam. So the question is, why does Patanjali choose to begin arguably the most important treatise on human potential with the word Atha? Atha means now, right? So I'm going to ask you so that we make it a bit of a conversation. What does now mean to you? Now. Sure.
Thoughts that are not in the future or in the past.
Yes, sir. Now. Living the moment. Okay. So why he chooses now? There are many different understandings of this. One, he had students. He was teaching them asanas, pranayama. Now, Atha Yog Anushasanam. Now they're ready for the discipline of yoga. But there's absolutely no poetry to that. Okay? Atha Yog Anushasana. If you feel that life will be better if you change your relationship, or if you change your career, or if you change something in your life, you're not yet ready for yoga. If you have tried all of that and you have not found lasting happiness, now you're ready for yoga. Right? Now this now can take 30 years, 40 years, can take a moment in time, but the moment you decide that nothing else is giving me this lasting happiness, Atha Yog Anushasana. Now the discipline of yoga. This now can take a long time. So for us, if now is right, then yoga makes sense. If now is right, you don't have a choice. If you have a choice to do yoga, meditation or not, now has not yet happened. The moment you don't have choice but to do this, the journey begins. And then it's not a question of time, it's just a question of that amount of passion to do things. But if you feel that still you can sort out your life, it can be better if I change this or this or this, you're not yet ready. Yeah? That's the beauty of the man, that he lays it down from the get-go. Now, Patanjali is very unique, so it's important to understand the person before we understand the text. In the Indian tradition, we don't really care much for the written word. We only care for the spoken word. So that is why it is very important that the teacher, Patanjali, speaks. This was not written for thousands of years. The Vedas, we don't care for the written word, we care for the spoken. The mnemonic culture of India means that a guru-shishya relationship has gone on. 2,200 years later, we have not lost a single syllable. Now we've got the Egyptian pyramids, but we don't understand anything of the science. But in the culture of the Indian subcontinent, the focus was on the learning. So 2,200 years later, we have not lost a single syllable. But it's not important to read the Yoga Sutras. It's important to learn from a teacher who's living that. So for Patanjali, because the sutra, so sutra is a literary tradition, like Kama Sutra. Sutra means a thread. So there's a train of thought. And each of the 196 aphorisms in the Yoga Sutras is a continued train of thought. He's answering a question on that train of thought. Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Why is it so precise? Because it was not written. Today, you could write, or you could have a book, or we could be talking for 3-4 days, and we may not yet get to the point. For him, he needs 3 words to define yoga. Yeah? Now, Patanjali is very unique because this is a spiritual scientist. When Christ talks, he talks about love, he talks about poetry. But Patanjali will give you technique. So we're going to look at a couple of things. One, the way the book itself is laid out, the Yoga Sutras was the most translated Indian text in medieval times. Not even the Bhagavad Gita was that translated. 40 languages in India, 2 other languages of which one is Arabic. In the medieval times, it was translated into Arabic by Arabic travelers and Farsi. The book itself has 196 aphorisms divided into 4 chapters. Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, if you could come in close. Sadhana Pada, Vibhuti Pada, and Kaivalya Pada. Now, what is the problem that he's trying to describe? We'll study. One of the main things in learning is you got to know what not to learn. It's not important what you're learning. It's very important to know what not to learn. Yeah? All the 196 sutras are not relevant today or tomorrow. But there will be few that are relevant right now. So, in the next 2 hours, you have to trust me that I've chosen what is relevant and I've chosen not to teach. So my choice to not teach what is not relevant is even more important. Yeah? Rather than run you through 196, we'll focus on some key sutras. Patanjali was a master of grammar. We don't master language just to communicate. We master language to articulate our own thoughts. If I don't have the right word, I don't know what I'm feeling. Yeah? 1. 2, please understand the problem that he has. How do you describe silence? Language is a tool of the mind. Language cannot describe silence. And that is why the great masters speak in poetry. Yeah? Nobody attempts to speak in logical science. It's very difficult. And that is why in today's times, Patanjali is becoming more and more relevant. The world's doing yoga because we want a reason, we want a scientific basis for why this happens. You don't have to believe him, that's the beauty. But you have to experiment. What he lays out is, you are the experiment and you are the experimenter. Yeah? Your belief in him, he's not interested in. He'd rather you don't believe, because then you'll experiment. Yeah? So yoga is not dogma. The reason I'm saying this is that all of you are adding to the science. It didn't end 2,200 years ago. It's not going to end in 2022. It's going to go on. So each of you has a huge role to play in adding to the science of yoga. We'll understand the basics, what he has laid out. And before we get there, why should we even bother with these guys? If you were to lock yourself in a cave for 30, 40 years of your life, your understanding of your body, your mind, your emotions will be unparalleled. To not use that understanding is like trying to reinvent the wheel. So because of this lineage, we have what he has learned, what he has suggested, and from there we can proceed. Atha Yog Anushasanam. Now the discipline of yoga. In the second sutra, he defines what is yoga. We all have a definition for him. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is yoga. He's defining it. Chitta means consciousness. Not just what I think, but what's in my subconscious, unconscious. Vritti is a very, very choice word he has taken. It means a circle. And we'll come to why he's chosen that word. It's a circle. Patterns of consciousness. Nirodha, cessation. Now, just imagine, I see Cliff, a very handsome man. Yeah. Now, if I understand that I have a pattern that every 3 days I feel jealous. If Cliff was not there, I would have felt jealous of Dan. If Dan was not there, I would have felt jealous of Dylan. Because every 3 days I fall jealous. It has nothing to do with Cliff, Dan or Dylan. It's my pattern. this understanding of the man that everything goes in cycles. Now, every 6 hours I feel hungry. Yeah? I know my pattern of the body. When I say I mean all of us. Yeah, please. In the same way, if I can watch that every 3 days I feel jealous, or every 6 days I feel angry, then I'm watching a particular cycle. Now, what is the beauty of watching a cycle? If you can watch it, it has no control over you. So the beauty of yoga is that you cease to be compulsive. So currently I'm compulsive. I feel jealous and I think I'm feeling jealous. But if I see that, okay, today is the third day, today jealousy is going to come. It's not possible to be jealous when you're aware. In the same way, it's not possible to be ecstatic when you're aware, happy when you're aware. Yeah? So we'll come to that, come to all of that. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Now we say that I want to be in the moment. There are two ways of doing it. One is I try and shut out every other distraction and be in the moment. We've tried it, never works, you'll go mad. A lot of people go mad because you stop yourself. Yeah? Let me not get angry, let me not get angry, let me not... It will never work. So then what do? Right? You have either to just live as is. Now, before we got interested in yoga and meditation, life was fine. The moment we started to get interested in this, now it's a problem. Now we have to make the travel, we have to make the distance. Unless and until there is some suffering, there is no need for yoga and meditation. There's no need for contemplation. He defines suffering in a certain way, and we'll look at that in the second chapter. But once you have some suffering, then you start to question, what is that part in me that doesn't suffer? I have a migraine, the body is in pain, so I find a center in me that is beyond my body. So I say my body is in pain, not me. I have an insecurity complex, so the mind is in pain, so I find a center and I see the mind and I say I'm not the mind. Eventually, the process of yoga is very fascinating because there are two things that we'll set in motion. One, it is not about asking who am I, it is asking who am I not. By elimination, what is left is my true essence. Easy approach. Rather than filling yourself with ideas of who am I, remove who am I not. What you'll be left with is essence. The second thing, Raja Yoga, that's Patanjali's work. In his time, there were about 200 schools. His school is considered the classical yoga school. In the classical yoga school, it is not about union. Even though the word yuj means union, his work is not about union. His work is about distinction. Yeah? So the main problem that he's presenting to us is this. This, I'm very clear, is not me. But I keep thinking through the day and I think that is me. Yeah? So over the next couple of hours, we'll go through the way he lays out an entire protocol to be able to see that that in me which watches doesn't merge with that which can be watched. Currently, the problem is just this. That in me which watches is completely merged with that which it is watching. It is watching, it is capable of watching. The self is capable of watching the mind. But it is so much in sync that I believe I am Manish, yoga, India, all of this. In deep states of silence, Manish is not there. That's when I'm in yoga. Not even I, that's when yoga is on. When My whole life story, my greatest joys, my greatest tragedies are on the periphery. When it is on the periphery, the self can watch. There's an apparent indivisibility between self and mind. That has to be cleared. That is the process of Raja Yoga. So there's no union. It's not about me and the cosmic. That's Bhakti Yoga. That's Christianity, that's Islam, that's Hinduism. It is about the self just watching that which can be watched. There are only two principles that we're going to work with. So yoga is a dualist philosophy. There is that which watches, we call it Purusha, and that which can be watched, we call it Prakriti. I can watch that. The problem is that mind. Now, our question that we're going to look at is, why is the mind considered nature and not the self? That's what we're going to look at. Now let's lay down what is the meaning of Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Suppose I had a girlfriend in college who looked like Vanessa. I didn't have. Suppose I had. I'm just giving an example of a relationship because that's the biggest problem in our generation. Suppose I had somebody who looked like Vanessa. We had a good time and then she left me. She ditched me. So I have some pain towards her. Okay? Now, what happens then is, when I see Vanessa, I don't know this person. I only have my idea of Vanessa. It's based on that experience. I cannot be in the moment. I'm not a carte blanche. I have my own notions of this person. So, I start to meditate. In my meditation, suddenly I remember that person and I lose my peace of mind. I go through life, okay, work happens, this happens. I go for a movie. I see somebody with that hairstyle. And immediately I go back there. Now this happens once, twice, 3 times. There will come a time after maybe 10,000 such sufferings. There will come a time when I'm seated comfortably at peace and I can look at that person who left me. At that point, I've made peace with that impression. We call it a samskara. When I've made peace with that impression, completely integrated into my being, then I can go meet her, I can meet her children, I can meet her husband. It's sorted. Like this, we have millions of impressions inside of us. So the ability to go through all of that so that eventually you've understood every driver for yourself. Then, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. You have a mind like a lake. Somebody threw a stone in college, the ripples are still going on. For us, right? Still going on and on and on. A yogi's mind is like a lake placid. The stone goes, experience is had, gone through, lake placid. For us, those ripples are the vrittis, still going on. I don't know why I behave in a certain way with Vanessa. But I'm just using it. I don't know. Because something in my subconscious mind is unresolved. Something in my unconscious mind is unresolved. So I'm behaving like this. Yeah? My conscious behavior is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't know who am I, and therefore I'm suffering. This is the big problem that we are trying to address. These are the vrittis that he's talking about. Now, if I try to seize it, so that's why he uses the word cessation, not seizing. It's not active. I'm not actively trying to stop thinking about that person. I'll go mad. A lot of people end up in the mental asylum because they try to do this. The naturalness goes. But once I've understood everything within of me, Only such a person can be in the moment. You can do a little bit of breathing, you can do a little bit of eating slowly, you can do a little bit of mindfulness, but it doesn't last. Till you don't know who you are, you're never going to be in the moment. Yeah? Only two things are possible. I can be at a sunrise and I can be completely with the sunrise. As soon as I start thinking such a beautiful sunrise, I'm not experiencing, I'm thinking. Yeah? Either you think or you live. You can't do both at the same time. So yoga is the art of using the mind when you need it, keeping it away when you need it. So yogas, chitta, vritti, nirodha. Now he has defined yoga. So he's now going to start to express why should you do yoga. Now when he uses the word yoga, he means the whole subject. So why should you do yoga? It's very beautiful the way he uses a word. If you do yoga, then the seer is established in his true self. So the word we use is seer. Yoga is, most of the Indian sciences, they're not interested in thinking about reality, about seeing reality. We call it a seer. So if you do yoga, you're established in your true self. If you don't do yoga, you keep identifying with your patterns. In the morning, I think I'm a good person. In the evening, I think I'm a jealous person. I'm an angry person. This goes on. Constant schizophrenia. Throughout the day, you keep thinking these things. Yeah? If you don't do yoga. If you do yoga, you get established in your true self. Now the question is, what are the things that happen in the mind? Yeah? There are two psychologists who are the best history has seen, Buddha and Patanjali. Yeah? Freud's psychology we more or less don't accept today. It lasted for about 60 years. Jung, a little longer, he's more deeper. But Buddha and Patanjali have stood the test of time for 2200 years, 2500 years. Because the depth is there. So he tells you what happens to your mind. In the last 2200 years, we've not found a sixth vritti. There are just 5 things that happen. Right knowledge, wrong knowledge, imagination, sleep, memory. Yeah? These are the 5 vrittis that go on. Right knowledge is defined as, so how do you get right knowledge in life? At any point, if you want me to slow down or you want to take a bit of a break to process, just let me know and then we can slow down. How do you get right knowledge? There are 3 ways. Direct experience. I was married, I know what is marriage. Inference. At a certain age, everybody dies, I know I'm going to die. Testimony. Einstein knows what he's talking about in physics. I accept his testimony. 3 ways to get right knowledge. Wrong knowledge, misunderstanding. Okay? Something that is based on a misunderstanding, and that's the biggest problem for us. Misunderstanding, miscommunication, and we don't understand the subject. Anything can be between 2 people. Imagination, something that's based on words. I've already imagined my Christmas holiday. It's not happened, but I'm somewhere in the future. Memory, he uses a very beautiful way, asampramosaha. From the morning to now, about 10,000 things have happened to us, but we don't remember. Some things we don't allow to pass through the sieve of experience. That becomes our memory. Good, bad, whatever. This is very beautiful because we thought that memory is put into different silos. But you are very, very involved. So the same experience, people remember it differently. because the memory creation is based on you. So right knowledge, wrong knowledge, future, imagination, past, memory, and sleep. He gives the fifth modification as sleep, not the dream state, but that state of non-dream, NREM sleep, where there are at least 2 hours in a day. If you wake up at that point, it takes some time for the program to load, right? Sometimes you just wake up and you don't know your name, you don't know Jack, you don't know where you are. And suddenly in 1 or 2 seconds, you come back to your senses. So every night, there are at least a couple of hours where there is no content within. Yeah? You're alive, you're asleep, who you are, anything, your story is not there. So that is also a state of mind. So one is that. Second is your mind can be in the past, your mind can be in the future, your mind can be with wrong knowledge, it can be with right knowledge. Now he has told what can happen with the mind. And you want to seize these vrittis, otherwise they go on and on and on and on. When those cease, you're in silence. Yeah? Now many traditions call that anything. You can call it kingdom of heaven, you can call it anything. But essentially everybody's talking about that one sacred space where you've become silent. You are not there. Yeah? To put it in context, yeah? I don't think even the cells in my body know that I'm Manish. Yeah? The intelligence of my body to digest the food is already becoming me. This character Manish doesn't have that intelligence. Nature doesn't trust me to keep myself alive, and therefore breathing and everything is happening subconsciously. Otherwise by now I would have forgotten 10 times already, if not more. So the pettiness of this self that I'm creating, when that dawns, it has no real existential meaning. We give it meaning, but in that state of silence, it is only on the periphery. Is that okay? Yeah. When those stop. So the whole journey of yoga is how do you hit that silence so that the self can just watch your story. That is why in yoga we are not interested in positive thinking. We're not interested in making negative into positive. Currently, I am in the river, and I think I'm the river. When I stand on the banks of the river, it doesn't matter if the water is dirty or the water is clean. I'm not going to spend any time making the dirty water into clean. I'm going to spend all the time to stand on the banks so that you can just watch. Now, how does this pan out in my life? A lot of us have a perfection thing, like I have a perfection thing. I would like to do something beautifully. So when I wake up in the morning, one of the first things that will start is, I wish I had done this yesterday. I wish I had done this differently. Some of you also have that. Yeah? If I'm not careful while I'm brushing my teeth, while I'm taking a shower, this will keep going on. Now half an hour is gone. Till somebody speaks to me or I have to do something that I'm engaged with, this will keep going on. Because I've tracked that vritti for years, as soon as I watch it, it'll drop. I don't have to stop it. This is the beauty of the subject. If you're aware, it'll stop. Yeah? Try being jealous when you're aware that you're being jealous. Try being angry when you're aware that you're angry. It won't happen. Because when you're aware, it stops. Then the next thought will start, okay, let me plan my retreat. If I'm aware, that will stop. The next will start. The next will start. If you sit for 10 minutes, you'll create enough content for a movie. Yeah? Because this projection is happening all the time. All the time. So in yoga, once we study and understand the nature of the mind, then we don't have to fight it. There is no question of me trying to still my mind, because I know that the nature of mind is to keep moving. If I disassociate and just watch it move, it loses the power over me. Yeah. Today, the biggest problem we are facing is that this beautiful mind that can create this, can create art, can even question who am I, we cannot stop it. Yeah. People are depressed because the mind doesn't stop. Just the ability to see it will stop it. So one point I want to make, in yoga, nothing is forceful. We don't force the stopping of the mind. If you're fighting with the mind, it's the wrong approach. Evolution is a natural process. Through the art, now this is why Patanjali is so beautiful, because he doesn't stop at definitions. He will tell you what to do with the body, what to do with the breathing, so that the mind stops controlling you. Yeah? Many a times, because my mind is running, I'm doing things in my life, depleting my energy because the mind is running. I think that I'm doing something, but the mind's running me. Right? This is what we are trading for. So now we have seen what the mind does. It can create something in the future, be in the past, right knowledge, wrong knowledge, or sleep. He gives us two ways to overcome this. He says you need two qualities: abhyasa, vairagya, tannirodha. Abhyasa, consistent practice over years, skillful practice done daily, regularly. So yoga should be done minimum 7 days a week. Not because it will make you less flexible if you miss a day, not for that. Because the neural circuits are so strong that if you skip within 48 hours, already you're back to where you were. Yeah. What you're looking to do is, it's not important who you are. It's important who you're becoming. And who you're becoming is just a collection of neural circuits that you want to do the way you want to do. Yeah, that's the adventure, right? Who I am today is just a collection of neural circuits that have happened mostly unconsciously. As an experiment, if the experiment doesn't interest you, yoga will not interest you. As an experiment, I want to know, can I be this? That means I've changed my neural circuits. For that, it has to be done daily, daily, daily. Please come please. It has to be done daily, skillfully, so that this keeps happening. Yeah? So we're talking about how to attain success in yoga. Abhyasa, daily skillful practice done consistently. The second quality is very difficult: dispassion. You can find people who are very, very passionate about what they do, and you can find people who are very chill and couldn't care less. To get both of those in the same person, that's the magic of yoga. Very rare to get such a person. Yeah? You'll get people who are obsessively passionate, or you'll get people who are... So to get a person who is... You have the discipline of an army person and the perspective of a hippie in the same. Now it's very difficult to be dispassionate. Yeah? Now, Vairagya is a very beautiful word. Today is Holi in India, right? Vairagya means without color. Yeah, his choice of words are very beautiful. Very beautiful. Without color. So there's no color in the person. There's no passion in the person. Is it possible to be so focused on practice when you're not passionate about it? Yeah? Detachment is an easy word, we throw it a lot. But it's very difficult to live a life based on negation. I won't do this, I won't do this, I won't do this, I'll get detached. It never happens. You get more obsessed. One of the ways to do it is to attach yourself to one thing. It can be anything in life. You attach yourself to one thing. Say it is to meditation. Everything else in life will also happen. But if you try to do 3 things with equal focus, you'll do nothing. So attached to one thing can be anything. Everything else in life will fall in place, will get balanced. At some point, even that one will drop. Okay? So your skillful practice is very important, but at the same time, you have to develop a sense of dispassion. Okay? I was at my teacher's painting exhibition, and he's very passionate about painting. So he was taking me through the first painting. He was talking, so beautiful, this, and all of that. Second painting, third painting. When I reached the 4th painting, then he asked me, do you like it? I said, no, I don't like this much. He said, yeah, it's rubbish, next. It's very rare to find a person so passionate. Any other artist would have told me, you don't understand art, because they are attached to their identity as an artist. As soon as I said this is not good, he said, yeah, it's rubbish, next. And he started speaking passionately about the next one. So that I found that, okay, so this man is living that. He's got the passion, but he's got the detachment. This is very important. So Patanjali says, if you have these 2 qualities, success in yoga comes. Okay? We'll look at a few more sutras in that chapter before we move to the Ashtanga, or the 8 stages that Patanjali has laid out. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. The beauty of Patanjali is that he gives you steps unto ecstasy. In the Zen tradition, we say, just fall. Yeah? Just fall in love. Yeah? Or you have systems where you have rigid discipline. But the rigid discipline makes you a good monk. But the monk is good only in the monastery. You put him in the mall, he'll be a mess. Okay? So there is a place for discipline, and there is a place for just ecstasy. Raja Yoga is unique because it is steps unto ecstasy. There is no system in the world that gives steps unto ecstasy. Okay? So we'll look at that. One of the things that we'll explore is, in Patanjali's work, he describes, and I'll just take a little bit of time because it's important for us to just understand his description of the concept of Ishwar, a special self. Now, I have a self that can watch. He describes a special self that is beyond time, beyond cause and effect, and beyond suffering. These are the 3 things we usually use to describe God. Right? These are the 3 qualities: beyond time, beyond suffering, beyond cause and effect. In Hindi, the word Ishwar refers to God. Now, what we have to understand is that he describes it, but he is not talking about this merging with that. That is Bhakti Yoga. The goal of yoga is just that this stands in its own light, but he still describes a special self. Now, this is very important to understand because in modern religion, we look at it as God-centric. Here, God is, or Ishwar is described, but it's not the focal point. It's very beautiful because it's not about being atheist or God-centric. It is there, but it's not the focal point. Yeah? You should know this so that you have no problems later on. There's no question of whether yoga is religious or atheist. It's neither. Because the understanding of religion today is very God-centric. It was not the case 3,000-4,000 years ago. Sometimes God is irrelevant to the discussion. Could or could not be there is not the point. So like that, he describes. He gets into the process of Samadhi. Now, I was fascinated to read once that Eskimos have 7 words for snow. For us, snow is snow. But because they are in snow 300 days of the year, they can distinguish snow. Like that, Patanjali distinguishes the states of Samadhi. So he said Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. For us, that state of ecstasy is beautiful. For him, because he's always in that state, that also he defines. Eventually saying, there's a state of ecstasy with a seed. Now suppose you have a mantra or you have a prayer. You see a saint sometimes very blissful. He's always in his prayer. Suppose you take out the prayer. He may lose his bliss. It happens. Sometimes it happens. A saint is in a state of bliss because of a seed, because of his prayer or his mantra. He may not need it, but most do need it. If he is at that state where he doesn't need it, then we call that asamprajnata samadhi. There is no seed also. He is completely in bliss. Yeah? That is a little bit of an insight into the first chapter. Our key points there were yoga is the cessation of modifications in consciousness, patterns. So you're always studying patterns. The more you journal, you will start to see every 3 days I'm jealous, every 6 days I'm angry, every 10 days I'm horny, some pattern. Once you can see the pattern, it cannot control you. You cannot be compulsive if you can see the pattern. Currently, I cannot see the pattern, so I'm being led on a circle. When I see the pattern, it drops. Then we saw the things that can happen to the mind, right, wrong knowledge, imagination, sleep, memory. We saw the 2 qualities, practice and dispassion, detachment. And we saw a little bit about the special self. The second chapter is interesting for us because it gives us the tools. Sadhana is the word for spiritual practice. So when you do a yoga practice, we call it a sadhana. Or when you do a music practice, we call it a sadhana. Sadhana pada, he describes the stages of yoga. Raja Yoga has 8. The first is yamas. The second is niyamas. Yamas is the way I manage my survival drive. Niyamas is the way I enhance my happiness drive. Then comes asana, pranayam, pratyahara. Yeah? Shall we get straight into the yamas? There are 5 yamas. Now, many times we find people say that I find it very difficult to be still. And that is often because the first 5 yamas, 5 niyamas have not been sorted. Okay? A person may be super fit, has the back and core strength, but may not have the composure to be still. Okay? Asana means a seat. That seat happens, that stillness happens in life when you have sorted many things. The first of those things is ahimsa, non-violence. Now, many traditions say, thou shalt not, if you can just put on silent, brother. Many traditions say, thou shalt not kill, but doesn't tell you what happens if you're non-violent. Patanjali tells you what happens if you're non-violent. It is so beautiful. I feel if I don't hurt somebody, I'm non-violent. What he says is that ahimsa pratishtam, a person deeply grounded in non-violence, tat sannido, vairya-tyaga. Around such a person, people give up aggression. And just think about that. Just let's take a moment and just close our eyes and just see whether we are truly non-violent. Because if, according to his definition, I'm not talking if somebody is neurotic towards you, no. But around you, if people have given up aggression, then you're in non-violence. Yeah? In modern yoga, we try to say you become a vegan, you hit ahimsa. That's too small a definition. Doesn't make a difference. Even Hitler was a vegetarian, for that matter. Around a person deeply grounded, sometimes you see around some saints, around them, people give up aggression. Very beautiful. Ahimsa, Satya, truthfulness. He says that a person who's truthful, everything that they want happens effortlessly. Now you know this from your life. When your intention is right, things happen smoothly, no problem. Suppose you're in the wrong relationship, wrong career, wrong place. You're not living your truth. You cannot be calm here. Yeah? What we'll see is that this is a natural evolution. This is not Patanjali's rule. This is the way he has observed how people evolve. If you come into truth and alignment, in yoga, nobody should be teaching you meditation. If the preparation is there, nobody will need to teach you meditation. You can go do relaxation, that's fine. But you're not going to go for a weekend meditation and come back. You'll come back the same person you were. But over the years, if you sort out your life, nobody will need to teach you the subject. Nobody should be teaching you how to connect to yourself. That's too beautiful to outsource. So, if you fix your life so that you're completely true, you can sit. If you're not true, once you start to sit, you start to worry that, okay, this relationship is wrong, or I'm not doing the work I should be doing in my life. You cannot have composure. You cannot be still. Asana means where you are, there's nowhere else you want to be. You can be ambitious, yes, but where you are right now, there's nowhere else you need to be. So that's not just a stillness of the body, it's a stillness in life. In the 196 sutras, only 3 sutras talk about asana. Yeah? In his time, asana meant a seated position. Once you train the body to be still, it won't happen if you're still violent. It won't happen if you're not living a truthful life. The third one, asteya, non-stealing. Non-stealing means not just that I don't steal your phone. Cliff has worked very hard on the project. Suppose I take all the credit. I'm stealing Cliff's thunder. It happens a lot in relationships, in couples, at work. If I take something that is not mine, I've stolen something, I can never be at peace. Asteya. I'm sure it happens at work. Everybody works hard. Some manager will take the credit. It happens as a couple. You host somebody. Somebody's cooked, worked very hard to cook at home, but the partner's telling all the stories. You've stolen that person's moment. If you take anything that's not yours, you can never be at peace. Asteya. Brahmacharya, godlike behavior. Non-obsession with sex. If I was a Swami, I would have taught it as celibacy. As a family person, non-obsession with sex. This is very important because the person interpreting makes a difference. Right? Everybody will interpret it according to their life experience. It doesn't matter, you can be celibate but thinking about it the whole time. That's not brahmacharya. You can be a family person with a proper sexual life, but you're not obsessed about it all the time. That's brahmacharya. Yeah? Very important to understand why. So what does he say? Brahmacharya pratishtam virya labha. If you're deeply grounded in non-lustfulness, you have a lot of vitality. And you know this from our own life. When you're lusting over somebody, you lose vitality. Yeah? You're hankering over something. When you're not in that state of lust, you have a lot of vitality. That is very important for meditation. Meditation doesn't happen to people with no energy. When a plant is full of life, it flowers. When a human being is full of life, meditation happens. Expression happens. So you have to see how you don't dissipate energy. If I'm not violent, I conserve energy. If I'm not lustful, I conserve. If I'm not taking something else, if I'm living a life of truth, I conserve. I become a reservoir of prana. And the last thing is aparigraha, non-hoarding. Non-hoarding. You can live like a king. You can have 1,000,000 things in your house, but it doesn't rule you. Some vase breaks, you don't lose your peace of mind. You can be a minimalist, but you may be even more obsessed. You had 10,000 things, it was fine. Now you have 50 things, but you're so obsessed with those 50 things. That is not non-hoarding. You become more material. Yeah, we've all tried minimalism at some point, and we've got more obsessed with the 3 things we had instead of the 10 things. That's not the point. You can have 10, you can have 100, but it doesn't rule you. Yeah, this happens a lot, right? You go to somebody's house, it happens in my house, suppose a glass breaks, my mom is so pissed off. She didn't use the glass for many years, it was just there. We gave it to some guest, it fell down. Now she's... It happens to all of us. If that doesn't rule you, then you conserve a lot of energy. There's a very beautiful story to depict this. There's a very famous king in India, Janaka, who was an enlightened being and a king. So many students, many masters used to send their students to him for finishing school. So one boy went to him. Typically when you're on the spiritual journey, the ego is very high, right? So this boy goes to the king. He says, "You idiot, you don't know what is life. It is all about meditation. You're in the harem, in the swimming pool with all the women. You don't know jack about life." He kept lecturing the king. It so happened that the boy had nothing. He had one underwear and one more underwear. We call it a langot. So you'll find yogis just wearing that. So the boy had gone in the morning for meditation. He saw the king. He doesn't know the king is an enlightened being. So he sees the king with all the women in the swimming pool, and he says, you fool, you don't know the meaning of life. And he goes for meditation. The palace starts to burn. It catches fire. So the boy is running back to get his one underwear. When he's running back, he sees the king is still there. And he says, "You idiot, even now your palace is burning and still you're there. You've not understood about life." So the king says, "My palace is burning, I am still calm. Your one underwear is burning and you're running around." Aparigraha. You can live like a king or minimalist, either way, but it shouldn't rule you. So we've seen ahimsa, non-violence, satya, truth. Gandhiji used only these 2. That was the only 2 he used. Aparigraha, non-hoarding, asteya, non-stealing, brahmacharya, non-lust. The next is the niyamas. The niyamas are very interesting. Now, how do I improve my happiness drive? The first one, saucha, cleanliness. He gives a very beautiful thing. He says that if you're pure and clean, you lose the obsession with your body and the limbs or the body of others. Sometimes you don't even know the person, but you say, "What a beautiful butt." And you're obsessed with somebody's body part. Right? So in Saucha, the cleanliness has come into body mind, that you're not obsessed with your own or somebody else's body parts. We also know that with Saucha, it's very tough to be organized if your room is messy, if your table is messy. If everything is orderly, you have a heightened state of focus. Yeah? So all of this is just preparing you for focus. Saucha, cleanliness. Santosha, contentment. It is very rare to find a human being who's content. Typically you'll find it with a dog. We like dogs so much. My dog is never going to leave where I stay. I want to see the world. My dog is so content just there. Or a tree. You go sit by a tree, it's so beautiful because the tree is content. If you find a human being who's content, they're almost saint-like. It's very rare to find. But he says that a person who's you can be ambitious, but happy where you are every day. If you're content, you're capable of great happiness, sukha. So contentment, saucha, santosha, tapa. Tapa means to take on some hardship. Now Ramadan is coming. You'll take up fasting, Lent, anything. Every system has taken up some hardship so that you're not obsessed with doing everything you want to do. Today, I do just what I want. My mind is like an errant child. It can be anything. I get up at a certain time a day. I skip one meal a week. I take a cold shower. Anything to develop that willpower. If not, whatever you want, you do. So that is why a lot of the religious systems have that period of tapa. So you develop a certain fire and you're not completely compulsive with what your body mind wants all the time. Tapa. You can make your own tapa, whatever it is. In today's time, for example, a digital detox once a week is a good tapa. Like that, you can make anything you want. Swadhyay, self-study. Now, typically as modern yogis, we'll say studying yourself, journaling. But Patanjali says, when you're deeply in sync with your Ishta Devata, your deity, you become capable of Samadhi. Now, you find Christian saints sometimes get magnolia. Yeah, they get the wounds of Christ. They are so deeply in sync with Christ, with Jesus, that they get his wounds on their body. It happens in that state of prayer. So that is an example of Swadhyay, so much in sync with your Ishta Devata. Ishta Devata means you choose a deity for you. Can be any. And the last one is Ishwar Pranidhan. We discuss self. You can do it in any which way. Whether you say, I surrender to life, I go with the flow, I surrender to Allah, to Christ, to Bhagwan, whatever you might say. You're realizing or accepting there is something bigger than you. However you want to describe it. Ishwar Pranidhan, in sync with something bigger than you. Now you have got yamas, you have got niyamas. Remember, this is not for societal order or anything. It is just for your evolution. If these two are done, then with some physical training, asana happens. About 500 years ago, the Hatha Yoga masters said, we are not getting students where the yamas and niyamas are sorted. So, let us start training them with asanas and pranayam first, and then this will happen. Now, we know that it works in our life like that. We started doing yoga, meditation. Suddenly, we found that we got a little less obsessed with things, or we became a little less lustful, or some things have happened in our life. Back in the day, you'd start asana after yama and niyama is done. Yeah? But it's more practical to start asana and these things will happen. But you have to be watchful for this. The way he describes asana is very beautiful. Sthira Sukha Asana. A posture that is steady yet comfortable. Yeah? So you should be able to, according to Hatha Yoga scripture, sit for 2.5 hours in your meditative posture. If you can do that, we call that Asana Siddhi. The person has mastered asana. And then you can continue to train just to keep the body, to express yourself. But the purpose has been met. Yeah? So when you design, it doesn't matter whether you can split or no, but you should be able to sit. That is asana. So that sthira sukha asana. Now how do you do it? Prayatna saitilyam, by cooling down effort. Ananta samapatibhyam, fixing the mind beyond. Now, don't ask like, where is the sthira sukha and nokasana? He's not describing that. You can attain it even in that. But he's essentially describing a seated position. Whichever you choose to be your seated position, asana. Now, the beauty of the man is, he tells you what is the benefit of asana. That's fascinating. The benefit of asana, according to him, tato dvandad nabhigata. The duality of the mind drops. This is why when you finish a yoga practice, you're very clear. The rest of the day, should I not? Should I? Yes, no. But as soon as you've done yoga meditation, you're crystal clear what you need to do. Maybe it lasts for 1 hour, 2 hours. Tato dvandad nabhigata has happened. So that is the purpose for being still. When you have attained a certain stillness, the natural progression is to start to watch your breath. Pranayama. Prana, life force, ayama, expansion. So you expand the life force within you. So you have a certain level of vitality. So whatever it takes to improve the vitality, pranayama. We do it predominantly through breathing exercises, energizing, tranquilizing, balancing. In pranayama, he defines pranayama as kumbhak, holding the breath inside. When you hold the breath inside, the mind is blank. So let's just try that, so it gives us a little bit of a break also. Take in a deep breath, close your nostrils, and just hold the breath inside. And as you hold the breath, you'll begin to notice that the mind has become blank. Okay? And relax. Beautiful. The mind only works when the breathing is working. If the breathing is held, the mind gets static. So it's a doorway into focus and meditation. Now if you know this, if you know how the body-mind works, you won't have to try and stop the mind. Rather, you'll hold the breath. Mind is like a kite, breath is like the thread. So this is why Raja Yoga is so beautiful, because it's not conceptual. He's not telling you come to stillness, but not telling you how to get there. As soon as you can hold the breath, the mind will be held. Kumbhak. He says that holding the breath gives you focus, trains you for focus. And the next stage is pratyahar, sense withdrawal. When you're so much of bliss. Now, what is the most beautiful thing, right? There's so much magic within. The food I ate has become me. The intelligence within me is magnificent. Yet, I'm obsessed with Elephant Rock, or I'm obsessed with the Eiffel Tower. But the real magic is here. Right? I am a part of the cosmos. Once the stillness has happened, once the breathing has happened, this is so beautiful that you want to look at it. So you withdraw the senses. It is not that you're cutting out the world, no. You have found the beauty within that you're looking within. If you send a person who's not ready to a retreat, I used to have a cousin who was a real brat. His parents sent him to a retreat. After 2 days, he jumped the wall and ran away. Yeah? The difference between a yogi in a cave and a murderer in solitary confinement is that one is doing it by choice. One is a danger to society, so is being pushed into solitary confinement. Both are in solitary confinement. But one has found so much beauty within that wants to look inside, so spends time in retreat. pratyahar. If I still think that that is more beautiful than this, I can never close my eyes. As soon as I see this is so beautiful, this is life, I'm a piece of life. Yeah? I don't need to be on a mountaintop, because this happiness is what I take to the mountaintop. I'm not going to find happiness there. But I cannot fool myself and tell myself that. When I'm genuinely happy, now you know this in life, right? Some days you're really happy. You don't feel like going out. Yeah? You're so much in bliss. You can be at home. You can be in your room. You can be maybe with your partner. Or just by yourself. When you're not exactly happy, then you need to go out. And you want to go to some place and you feel that will give you a bit of a buzz. That is pratyahar. It is not that you negate the world, it is that the beauty within is so much that you look within. These 5 stages are called as external yoga, Bahirang Yoga. A yoga teacher like me is equipped to teach this. The next 3 stages is Antarang Yoga, where you live with a guru to get that. There are no techniques. So the next 3 are very interesting, and he puts that in the 3rd chapter, Vibhuti Pada. Vibhuti means magical powers. He'll describe 18 powers that come to a yogi. But before we get to those 18 powers, let's understand the 3 stages beyond that. Dharana, focus. Deshabandha chittasya dharana. Focus is fixing the mind on one point. As a child, you could play with one toy for 6 hours. When puberty hit, focus went. Most of us didn't retrain focus. We should have been trained focus before algebra, before math, before anything. Focus is critical. Focus is the opposite of stress, not relaxation. When you're focused, you can never be stressed. And focus doesn't mean that will never last. Focus is a certain state of continued attention on a certain subject. Can be you, can be something. When Lionel Messi plays, his ability to stay with a football for 6 hours, I cannot. When I say I mean all of us. Right? After 3-4 minutes, after half an hour, we'll get bored. He's that good because he can stay focused for 6 hours with a ball. If I lose focus every 1 minute, I'll be good enough to paint the walls. I'll be a painter. If I can stay focused for a certain amount of time, half an hour, I'll be good enough to be in a gallery. If I can stay focused for 6 hours, I'll be Michelangelo. The essence is focus in anything in life, not just to be a great artist. If you don't have focus, you cannot be a good friend. You cannot listen to your friend. A lot of relationships falling apart because we cannot listen to our partner. They're telling us something, but we are busy in our mind. So focus is the basis to have a good quality of life. It's the most precious thing in the world to have a focused mind. People have time. My machines do everything for me. I have a lot of time, but I may not have focus. If I have focus, that's gold. If that focus continues for a longer period of time, we call that meditation. It's not a qualitatively different state. It's a quantitatively different state. Currently, my one thought is about food. My next thought is about my holidays. My next thought is about some college friends. It's a schizophrenic thought pattern. There's no connection. In focus, now, I'm thinking about Alula, this class, food around Alula, accommodation, everything is in pattern. When this goes on, only one thought. That state, pratyekatanata, we call it a flow state today in psychology. That state is a state of meditation. That can be in anything. If an artist goes little more, he'll become a yogi. If a scientist goes little further, he'll become a yogi. because they've developed that level of focus. It's become meditative for them. Yeah? A little beyond, and they'll be a yogi. So when we use the word yogi, we don't mean just what we do. It can be a master painter, it can be a sports person, it can be a musician. That is their yoga. And they reach like that. Now, when that state becomes for days on end sometimes, you have completely lost your sense of identity. So to understand Samadhi, I'm just going to give you one definition and then we'll come back to Samadhi. In Tantra, we describe a human being as a Gat Akasha, an earthen pot that contains the cosmos. The cosmos is within me, but I think I am the pot. So the whole process is not anything but breaking the pot. I don't have to connect, I'm already connected. That is in me. I am the cosmos. Yeah? But I have identified myself as this character, Manish, tak, 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 tak. The only thing is that identity is limiting. It's like a constipated identity of the cosmos. The only thing that has to happen is that identity has to go. And then the cosmos is me, I am the cosmos. So that breaking of the pot is the process of Tantra. That process is Samadhi, where the identification goes away. Yeah? Currently, my identity limits me. Yeah? My identity limits me. If I think I'm a painter, I cannot paint. Yeah? Dan, you know this, you're a musician, right? If you think you're a musician, you cannot create music. Yeah? You find great bands, the first album is brilliant. As soon as they start to believe they're musicians, it's gone. Because the identity becomes so important. As soon as that identity drops, then Samadhi state happens. So you'll find sometimes saints, yogis, for 2-3 days they are in bliss. That state we call as a Samadhi state. Now in that chapter, he also talks about the different magical powers. But before we get there, let's just do a quick recap. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, meditation, Samadhi. Dhyan is the 7th state. You cannot bypass all of this. You have not learnt asana. You have not learnt to be still. You have not learnt to hold your breath. I'm talking Raja Yoga, classical Raja Yoga. There are meditation techniques that are dynamic meditation and different. I'm not talking about that. I spent a lot of time trying to understand why do people run. I could never understand why people run. Only time I ran was when I played football, or I could never understand why people run. But then I understood that after 5-6 kilometers, they become silent. People dance therapy. They dance because after some amount of movement, they become silent. We do vinyasa, after some amount of movement, we become silent. Essentially, a training to become silent. That stillness, asana, holding the breath, pranayam, the senses have gone in. If I'm hankering over something, I cannot be at peace. If I think I'll be happy when I get that job or that person in my life, I can never be peaceful. When I understand that happiness is this chemical composition, it's happening here, then the senses withdraw within. I don't need to become a hermit, no. But I've understood that the happiness I'll feel when I find my dream partner is happening here. So I might as well make this happy already. Yeah? When I meet her, this happiness is not happening anywhere else but here. So I already start to work on that. Pratyahar, Dharan, focus, Dhyan. So you cannot do like a weekend meditation. It won't happen. If you set your life in order, yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayam, nobody will have to teach you meditation because your life will become meditation. Yeah? Essentially, we master technique so that one day we don't need it. Today I do 1 hour of yoga, after a few years 2 hours, 3 hours. There has to be a day when I need 0 hours. Right? Today I need time to sit in meditation, to process and to be energetic. Some day will come when I don't need it because my life will be so sorted, I would have sorted everything, that there is nothing to sit quietly and sort. Is that okay? That makes sense? Because your life will be the meditation and not just what you sit. It doesn't matter if you sit like this and you can see a garden, but you act like an idiot with people. It doesn't matter at all if you can see pink color here, but you're a nightmare. It really doesn't make a difference. The only thing that matters is that the life becomes smoother through all this process. So that is Samadhi. Now, in that chapter, he describes 18 magical powers with a very clear warning. If you do certain meditation techniques, the yogi levitates. But it's a distraction. Yeah? Or a yogi is found in 2 places. It's been noted, some students have seen the person in Allahabad and also in Rishikesh. But that's a distraction if you make that your calling card. You started to find out who you are. Because you have accessed the mind's powers and there are infinite latent powers, you have got a certain power. If you make that your focus in life, your journey stops. Now just wrap your head around this, right? For us, it's an absolute miracle. What he's telling us is that if you put enough and more of effort, this will happen. But if you make this your focus in life, your journey will stop. It happens a lot, right? A lot of saints and so on, not saints, but a lot of people will have some magic tricks that they do. Gurus and so on. Of course they have some of those powers. That's not we always joke that the real miracle in life is not walking on water, but if you can walk on earth. Right? If you can walk on earth, that's a great miracle. Yeah? Like that, he describes 18 powers, Vaka Siddhi, and so many different Siddhis, but very clear that don't make that your calling card. That is the 3rd chapter. One of those Siddhis we call as Vaka Siddhi. So sometimes you go to meet a yogi, they'll be shouting at you and you'll be like, wow, mesmerizing. In the last chapter, Kaivalya Pada, we are going to focus on just one Yoga Sutra, the last one. How does he bring this whole thing to an end? It's a very beautiful thing that in the last chapter, there are only 34 sutras in that, each of the others has 50 plus. He says that there's a continued development of self. Every day, I'm developing this idea of who I am. I'm building the story of Manish. It's constantly building. And I get trapped in my own story. Okay? In the last chapter, it is all about dissolving this identity. Dissolving this entire identity. Because suffering happens. If there's no suffering, there's no need for me to do all of this meditation process. The main reasons for suffering, 1, avidya, I don't know who I am. If I don't know who I am, I can never be happy. Happiness is left to chance. 2nd, raga, extreme attachment. I like an ice cream, now I want to have 5 ice creams. It will lead to some suffering. Dvesha, aversion. Yeah? I don't like a person, this kind of a person. I become so averse that it causes me suffering. Abhinivesha, a fear of death. These are the causes of suffering, all based on avidya, not knowing who I am. Very important to make the distinction between mental training and meditation. Mental training, I manifest my dream partner. If what I want doesn't happen, that's a problem. If what I want happens, that could also be a problem. I don't know who I am. Now, I have my dream partner and I don't know who I am still with a dream partner. Yeah? So that is why in yoga, we don't do manifestation or mental training. We just want to know who am I. If I get to know that, everything else will sort itself. Is that okay? The distinction between the two? Yeah? Just that knowledge. So the last sutra is very beautiful. Purushartham shunyanam gunanam pratiprasavaha kaivalya. Purusha, that which can see. Prakriti, that which can be seen. Yeah? We began with the first thing. The problem that he's trying to solve is that which can be seen has merged with that which is seeing. I know I am not this, but I think I am all of this. Yeah? Now, why is the mind considered to be nature and not the seer? Because it's based on the gunas. Rajas, Sattva, Tamas. It has inertia, it has passion, and it has calmness. It changes. That which changes can never be the eternal. Yeah? If it changes, it cannot be the eternal. That in you that is watching, that eternal can watch the mind. If it can watch the mind, therefore the mind cannot be all of you. Yeah? Therefore, at a certain stage, the gunas cease to have any value for that which watches, Purusha. So they involute. Yeah? Nature involutes for the yogi. Now the question arises, if that is real or not real? In Vedanta, that is not real. Only that which watches is real. Only that is a non-dualist understanding of life. All is one. Only consciousness exists, matter doesn't. In yoga, that is real. For the yogi who has attained, it ceases to be real, but it maintains its reality for everybody else. In the first system, if I don't look at the moon, does the moon exist? No, right? Because if you're saying that only consciousness exists, so when you look at it, it's there. When you close your eyes, it's not there. In yoga, it is there. For the yogi who has attained, it ceases to maintain reality. But it is there for everybody else because it's not based on just my perception of it. It's based on multiple perceptions of it. So that is why yoga is a dualist philosophy. Most of the philosophies are dualist. There is spirit and flesh in the Abrahamic traditions. Yeah? Spirit and matter. Consciousness and nature. Purusha, Prakriti. Shiva, Shakti. Yeah? But for the realized yogi, this involutes. Yeah? This drops away. It is there, but not for the realized yogi because he has transcended, he's understood the nature of reality. For us, we have not understood the nature of reality, so we have this constant thing. So just to sort of summarize, we have time, we've got enough time, but just to summarize, the main problem that he's addressing is this. There is an apparent indivisibility between that which watches and that which can be watched. I completely think that I am Manish, XYZ, all of this. At least 2 hours every night when I'm asleep, the story is irrelevant. But I'm asleep. If that can happen when I'm aware that this story is only on the periphery, that watching stands. So when we were talking yesterday, for example, the question was, why is this even important? In my opinion, and we can open it out, but this is my opinion, that if in a deep state of silence, my story is on the periphery, I cease to be claustrophobic in my own story. I have choice. That little choice makes all the difference in life. Now you're left with 2 choices. If you can anyway be silent, your life can be trashy. You can wear a torn shirt. Or if your anyway life is happening at the periphery, you can wear a beautiful shirt. You can live a beautiful life. It's on the periphery. Currently, we don't have choice. We believe that what's happening to us is our life. When the choice comes in, you're left with this decision to make. Anyway, it's happening at the periphery. Should it be beautiful or should it be trashy? Because anyway, you're at peace. Even if your partner leaves you, even if you fail in your business, even if everything happens, you can be in peace. So you have the choice. When you have the choice, most of the time, you're going to choose to have a beautiful life. Okay? That choice is the gift of yoga. Because you're not completely identified with your life. Again, a couple of things that I'd like to share. One, remove every belief, strip away every belief, any and everything, including Patanjali's work. If you strip away everything and honestly ask yourself, who am I? And you start by removing who am I not. We take it for granted, so many of us take it for granted that I have a soul that's going to come back, there's rebirth. I don't remember any previous birth. I don't deny it. But because I don't remember, I don't believe it either. So one of the approaches that you can do is, when I was younger, I would only believe what I saw. If I experience, yes. If not, no. The problem with that is it limits. So what I do in the last few years is, till I cannot disprove it, I will accept the testimony. If Krishna says there is rebirth, I'll start with that. If in my own experience of life, I find it's not true, then I'll junk it. But till then, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. You're taking Krishna's words as testimony. And you're saying, okay, so there is a possibility that I was here before and I may be here after. Now let me experiment and see. Can I remember if I was here before? It makes your exploration even more interesting. Either ways you have to explore. Am I going to say, no, I don't remember a previous birth, so this previous birth thing is rubbish? Or, this is what Krishna says, till I cannot disprove it, let me work with it. Depending on which testimony you want to take on. In either case, whichever you take on, you have to experiment. Yoga means you're not going to take anybody's idea on life and make that yours. You don't want second-hand knowledge. Okay? It is not right that life has given you this system to process. Okay? Every day 150,000 people die. For some reason we're all alive today. Okay? It's not in our hands, we are alive. Such a gift, such a gift. Why will I accept some dogma? I will question. If this is your journey, if yoga, Raja Yoga is your path, you want to figure it out for yourself. There should be something in life at the age of 40 that I can say, for sure, I know this. Almost most of what I say is just picked up from here and there. So in the yogic approach, take on experiments and check. If you can disprove it, if you can find a sixth thing the mind can do, Patanjali is irrelevant. You don't have to fit into Patanjali in the same way you don't have to fit into Buddha or anybody else. But you respect the fact that they have spent decades of their life learning the life process. Nothing has changed, right? In 2200 years, the questions are the same. Only thing I dress differently, I have technology, but the essential questions have not changed. Who am I? For that, I'm still using technology that is 2500 years old. I won't use even 5-year-old technology for my phone or watch. But even now, to know who am I, I'm using ancient techniques. Yeah? So nothing much has changed. He's still relevant today. He's still relevant up until the point we can disprove his psychology. The moment we can disprove it, then he's irrelevant. But till then, he's very relevant. Friends, let's just take a minute, let's assimilate, and then if anybody wants to sort of share or anything. In the yogic approach, no questions, because unless it's some factual thing, but no opinions, because who am I to answer? And why even ask? Because you're too beautiful and you can figure it out yourself. The only thing is you train the techniques. Yeah? Don't take the perspective of somebody else. Take the techniques. Yeah? Train the technique. Get the sitting. Get the breathing. Don't borrow their ideology, because why would you want to do it? Yeah? So, in that context, let's just take a moment's silence. Let it all assimilate. Friends, to close out our session, I'm going to invite all of us to come into a circle, so that we come into a circle. Hi, come, Danny. Please come. Just come, and come into a circle. Come, brother. In fact, we can even come in a bit closer. Let's just seek out the grace for one another that our subject study, the work that we put in yoga, that we are able to stay focused. The abhyasa, the practice is good. The vairagya, the dispassion is there. Let's seek out grace for each and everybody. We can do a namaste to each person. I'm also going to invite everybody to just share one word for the group. Just for the group. Has everybody got a chance to say? Thank you so much. Thank you, friends. Thank you so much. Thank you.